Bloomberg is super excited to present today. We will be going over a little bit about Bloomberg and then talking about mock interviews, talking about technical interviews, which I know makes everyone a little nervous, but as long as you sort of take the time to establish some good habits, you'll get a lot of insights today. We ask that you take notes and ask tons of questions in the chat. We're happy to answer those questions. So my name is Julio Bueno. I am a engineering recruiter and program manager for Bloomberg. And I will hand it over to my colleagues to introduce themselves. Cindy, do you want to go first?
Sure. My name is Cindy Juarez. I joined Bloomberg 3.5 years ago as a senior hire. I'm a senior engineer for an application team that builds products that allow traders to connect to the stock market.
Awesome.
I'm Jose Rivera Santuche, have been at Bloomberg for 6 years now. I'm part of the trading analytics department.
Thank you both. So we're going to go over a little bit about Bloomberg. In terms of our recruitment programs, we have 2 positions that we're recruiting for. We have our summer internship, which is an 11-week program with 1 week of training. The prerequisite is that you've taken data structures and algorithms. We accept students from freshman year to master's and PhD. You'll be paired with a mentor throughout the summer. You'll work on a live project that will go into production. This summer, we were able to keep our internships to 11 weeks, which we're really proud of. And we were able to make the event, the summer virtual. We host tech talks. We have puzzle challenges, which you'll get a taste of in our puzzle session at 1:30. Host game nights. We give our interns a ton of feedback. At the end of the summer, they are given the opportunity to present their projects to the larger engineering community. Our full-time program is very unique for a couple of reasons. There's no GPA requirement. There is no degree requirement except for a high school diploma. So you can be self-taught. You can be a graduate of a boot camp that you've attended, or you can have a traditional sort of CS background. But we've really opened up the pathways into engineering. I like to tell people it's about coding, communication, and collaboration at Bloomberg. Those are what I call the 3 C's. So if you can do those 3 things well, you've got a good shot at the program. The interviews, and we'll dive deeper into the interview process. The one thing that's exciting about our full-time program is that you go through an 8-week training program, 6 to 8 week training program, where we dive into the financial markets, our technology stack. You join with 30 to 40 other new hires, so you have a cohort that you sort of stick along with throughout your career. And then you get to hear from teams who present to you in like a reverse career fair format. You get to shadow 4 to 5 teams, and then you get to rank all the teams, and you're typically placed within your top 3 teams after training. And I'll hand it over to my colleagues.
So our company. Our company was founded in 1981. We have 167 offices all over the world and 5,500 software engineers devoted to learning. We're one of the largest private networks in the world. We are a technology-first company, and we build financial products. So what is the Bloomberg Terminal? It is a product that allows traders and portfolio managers and anyone in the financial market to trade, connect to different services, and be able to talk to each other as well as run analytics, and we support all their different workflows. Philanthropy. This is one of the core concepts of Bloomberg. We are really big into philanthropy, both out in the community and inside of Bloomberg. It's very ingrained in our culture. You can volunteer in a variety of areas. There's Habitat for Humanity, there's donating blood, you can help teach kids how to code, the robotics team, and I think there's like a lot of different fun activities. And the best part is that you get hours for them. And if you get 25 hours, we will donate money to your organization of choice. So let's dive into the interview. What do we evaluate in an interview? So mostly, we're not looking to try to trip you up or give you, any really hard question. Most of them are very straightforward, right? We are just looking for your thought process and your problem-solving ability, right? Do you listen? Do you go through edge cases? Do we understand what you're doing? Do you have a basic understanding of computer science fundamentals? And are you driven to learn and grow? So your interview can include hands-on working, talking through technical coding exercises, questions about different types of data structures and algorithm, constructing a solution to the problem, and as well as talking in technical detail about your past projects. So the first thing you should do is plan out your approach. So the first couple minutes that you get that an interviewer is giving you a question, take this time to just listen, ask any clarifying questions that you might have, and restate the problem. And I want to emphasize this because I think it's really important to just show that you are on the same page with the interviewer, right? And that you really understand what they are asking. After you've done that, oh, we might have skipped the slide. Well, just so start with maybe not.
Move one more over.
Oh, no, it's okay. Go ahead to the next one. Sorry. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is let the interviewer know which language you're most comfortable in. And I personally recommend the language you've used most recently because you're going to be more familiar with how to call things, what like .sort, any sort of utils that are available to you that are part of the language, right? And start with the first solution that you think of, right? And talk about it, explain it, talk about the different, the runtime, and does it actually solve all of the edge cases, right? Like really dig into it and think about if you can make it better, right?
Awesome. So why don't we pause here for a couple? I'm happy if you guys have questions. Please throw it in the chat, and I'll keep track of them, and we'll do our best to address them at the end. We really want you guys to get the most out of this content.
Can you switch the language during an interview? I don't recommend that. We are trying to make sure that you write, that you code a solution to the problem. So I think switching languages can also be a little jarring. If you don't know the answer to the question that's asked, that is okay. Work through it. We are here to give you hints. Of course, it's not great if we like solve it for you completely, but hints are totally okay, and it is okay to mess up if you don't know, if you're not sure of how to solve it. Some more questions. How many interviews does one typically do with Bloomberg during the internship application process? I've seen it change from year to year, so I can't really give a hard number. I would say I expect anywhere from like 1 to 4.
Someone asked how many interviews. We said, yeah, you answered that. And someone said, are we open? We do sponsor. So if you need, we do sponsor as a company for OPT and CPT.
For the syntax error is negative, that is not a negative thing neither. We are not looking for a perfect code. Mostly how you think while implementing the solution. So it's okay to miss an API or to don't remember what name is.
Does the interview process differ between undergraduates and graduates? It's pretty similar, Jacob. We do adjust it. So if you're a sophomore, you probably won't get the same question like a senior or a master's PhD student will get. But it's based on data structure and algorithms, and then we say that you should, a baseline is sort of the medium to hard and lead code, and we'll go over that in the presentation. Yes, we hire graduates with up to 3 years experience for the training program. Why don't we continue?
Great. So the interviewer has just given you your question, right? You just restated, maybe drawn some pictures to make sure you understand what they want you to do, right? And the next point is really dig into the edge cases. Ask maybe like, is this a destructive function, right? Like, can I change the or like the input or make a copy, right? How should I output the result? Do I just need to print it? Do you want it returned, right? Are there any like size or performance concerns, right, that we need to be thinking about? So any sort of edge cases you can think of.
Pooja asked, is it a good idea to interact with the interviewer during whiteboarding to get feedback on your code? Absolutely.
I would say some of the best interviews, the best feedback I've ever gotten is to explain it like you would to a friend, a technical friend, right? So you explain what your thought process is. If you're going to put it into an array, you don't need to like explain what an array is, but you can. And I think your trade-offs, right? So it's totally okay to interact with them, and but I would say be confident, right? If you say, is this the right approach? There are multiple good approaches, so it's a little hard for an interviewer to just say like, yeah. No, I think if you're going down the wrong road, they will try to save you. So like, and give you hints of like, okay, what are you trying to do here? What about this edge case, right? If there's anything really major. Do we also consider other engineering majors? Yeah, I think we stated this in a few slides back, but yeah, you don't need a CS degree as long as you are good at communicating and you have some basic foundations and you have an interest.
You're mute, Julia.
Are we going to move on?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So interviews, you should be talking pretty much the whole time. The interviewer will only really say things, right, to test your knowledge a little bit, or to make sure you go down the right path if you're going down the wrong path. That's why it is important to talk the whole time, communicate as much, even as you're coding, right, to explain what you're doing. That just improves communication. And if I can follow your code, I'm just going to think we did a great job, right? So if you're confused about anything, if you think, oh, maybe this isn't the API, like that's fine. We're not really looking for syntax, just like basic problem solving. And yeah, mostly we're just looking at how you think through the problem, and if you can communicate. And it's okay to admit that you don't know something, and just, be brave, give it your best shot. We are here for you. All right, let's prepare. So now I'll hand it over to Jose.
Thank you, Cindy.
We'll talk about a little bit more about the process.
So let's prepare now. Cindy went over most of the information for the interview. So now when you are preparing for the actual interview, it will be good to go over all the courses that you took. It could be in the university or in the Coursera, as someone mentioned. It doesn't have to be from a degree, but to learn about the tools that you use, for instance, arrays, a map, sets, linked list, to check how you can use all different tools when solving a problem. Research and study the algorithm. For instance, the searching, the sorting. We won't be asking you to implement a sorting algorithm from scratch. Most of the languages now has this in the API, but at least to understand how it works and to be able to implement, but and in a high-level overview, maybe in discussing with the interviewer. Discuss or check the runtimes. Why map is better than array for certain scenarios. What linked list might be better in some other scenarios. Check the pros and cons of all the tools that you have. Next slide. So try to replicate the interview experience. As Cindy mentioned, it's like having a conversation with a technical friend. You can have the conversation and assuming that he or she is the interviewer, and you will be explaining to your friend, okay, this is the problem I have. These are the trade-off. I think I might use an array, but maybe the map is better for performance, or maybe I actually use a set because it's unique numbers. You will have this discussion, like it's called as the design aspect, before even implementing the first line of code. The reason for this is that for you to think out loud, for the interviewer to know what your thought process is, what you are planning to code, and it doesn't look like you are jumping to code without thinking. Do the problem on whiteboard. Now, while we are on virtual, we will have links to be online. But when we are in office, you might be asked to solve the problem in a paper. Somebody asked about the syntax. We are not looking for syntax. It's okay to have some syntax error. It's okay to don't remember the API number. We are not evaluating if you know all the API. We are evaluating how you can use the tools that you have in data structure to be able to provide solution for a problem. Practice with friends. Again, there are a lot of resources. A couple of them are Cracking the Coding Interview. This is a book that provides solutions and problems for many areas: arrays, linked lists, maps, backtracking, graph. We have they have problems for all the different aspects. And I would strongly suggest for you to practice without seeing the solution. Even though if it's taking you a couple of hours to solve a small one, it will give you the confidence to think about the possibilities before seeing the solution. And if you want to get better at race, I would say practice over and over different kind of exercises that use array to solve the problem. Lead code is a better page for that. You can go to leadcode.com and select, hey, I want to practice graph or I want to practice maths, and you will have list out all the problems that you want to practice for the specific data structure. Preparing is practice. The more you practice, the better you get. Next slide. Now, on your resume, we normally start the interview by having a discussion about your resume. And take in mind that anything that you have on the resume, we can ask you about. It's good to, or it's recommended to only put on your resume a thing that you feel comfortable to answer, or feel confident that you know about that project or that language. For example, if you put that Scala because you took one course or one project, or you put Fortran, and the interviewer happened to be an expert of that area, or not an expert, but he or she knows something about that programming language, he or she might be asking you about that specific programming language. Hey, what project did you do? Or what did you like the most about these programming languages? So I would recommend to put on the resume everything that you feel comfortable and confident to talk. Having a structured approach, having the problem, idea, implementation, and result is the project. Don't list out all the project for the classes or the project that you did an internship without much information. Something that we would like to see is the impact. For example, we work in this project and we reduced by 50% of the capacity, or we improved the system by 25%. Having those metrics or having those stats will trigger a conversation with the interviewer. Yeah, some questions to consider. What was the challenges? It will be up to the interviewer what question will be asked, but you can think about the challenges. If you work in a team or if you're working by yourself, those kind of questions will provide the interviewer how you work as a teammate. And when you work at Bloomberg or any technology company, it will be most likely that you will be working as a group.
Someone asked, do you value more project-based experience or leadership-based experience?
So it's all depends. For software, we value the project experience because it will give you how you are interacting, for instance, working as a group, working in a team, what kind of challenges did you face, what kind of data structure, what kind of technology did you use. For leadership position is important as well, but I would say for the entry position as a software engineer, we might give more important the projects. Although the leadership will give you some benefit in the long run.
Just to emphasize this, a good point we want to make is that we review every resume that's submitted to us on our website. So it definitely is a set of human eyes taking a look at your resume. Every recruiter right now during the season probably spends about an hour to an hour and a half reviewing resumes every day. The resume really is the point of entry. So it really is important that you include all of your technical skills, their coding languages, any classes you've taken, certificates, projects, and really putting the time in to explain the project, what the action was, what technology you used, what results, to Jose's point. But I can't emphasize enough the importance of having a really strong resume as the resume. If you could be the best coder in the world and probably the best teammate, but if you don't have a strong resume, unfortunately, you won't move forward in the process because we keep a standard of things that we look for, and that includes your projects, your experience, your technical background, and it can be self-taught. But what did you use to teach yourself, right? Did you read 3 books? Did you take 3 classes? Do you have 2 certificates? You have to put those on there because you have to convey that story on that piece of paper. Cindy, Jose, anything else, any other sort of resume advice as we're sort of on this topic?
Yeah.
No, sorry.
Oh, I have one which I thought was useful. If you have a couple technologies, right, that you want to list down, and some of them, I think you can also list down your level of experience. So if you would just want to highlight like, oh, Java, I'm, intermediate or expert level, and maybe JavaScript like beginner, you can also do that.
Awesome. Jose, did you have anything you want to add to that?
Apart from the senior, yeah, I would like to emphasize that whatever you put on your resume you should feel confident so not add something in the resume just to make the resume full.
Yeah. And then again, just putting the effort in and making sure that you're connecting with other people in your network to help you review it. A lot of times I'll review resume and I don't understand, I can't connect the dots, and it's probably because that person hasn't had that resume proofread by somebody else. Because unless someone else reads it, you won't have the feedback of what's missing, because in your head, it makes complete sense, right? But for a person who doesn't know you, has no background on your experience, you really have to lay things out in a way that tells a story. So what was the problem, the idea, how did you implement it, the result, looking back, and then being able to convey what you learned, what you would have done differently is really important. I think 1 page is probably appropriate for anyone with the 3-year range, and that is just about being smart about your formatting. I'm okay with smaller margins, but make sure that you use really good word choice. And it takes, I would say, updating your resume should probably take you at least 1 to 2 weeks, and that's if you've been keeping it up to date over time.
I would also say, I guess to echo what Julio was saying, that I think what you want to tell us about your projects and what you learned and the technologies used is probably most important. We do look at like, okay, this person, maybe they were in competitions or they had this leadership experience, but I wouldn't say that's like the primary factor. It just tells us more about you and the kind of person you are and your interests.
To also add for the person who asked about the paging, how many pages, I would say to add a project or experience that will be highlight, will stand out. For example, the project from the university, most of the time, everyone taking the same course will have the same projects. I would recommend putting or adding something in the resume that will make you stand out from the crowd.
Awesome. Yeah, feel free to keep throwing questions. Unfortunately, we can't give updates on applications that people have put in, but I can follow up with you in some time.
I would say it's the busy season.
Yeah, and like if you apply in the summer, we'd probably get back to you in like 3 to 4 days. But right now, we're under a bit of delay because we are. I'm spending like an hour and a half every day, like with a cup of coffee, reviewing resumes first thing in the morning when I'm fresh. Timeline for the program. So for the internship program, you apply, and then we have 5 start dates that start in May. Full time, every Monday is a potential start date. So we recruit throughout the year for the full-time program. So there's no sort of hard or soft start date. Every Monday is a potential start date. International students, yeah, we sponsor when someone has OPT or CPT. Okay, let me go to the next slide. Okay, these are great questions, guys. We love that this is interactive. Keep the questions coming.
So apart of the interview, at the end of the interview, you will have 5-10 minutes to ask for the interviewer. It could be anything about how they work life or how is the company. And for that reason, we strongly suggest to research the company, in this case, Bloomberg. We want to know why are you applying to Bloomberg? What do you like about Bloomberg? What was the thing that you read from Bloomberg, you learn about Bloomberg that you are interested more about? So do your research. There is a page as well, Bloomberg company engineer. You will learn about the department that we have for engineer, about the roles, about what each area work on. Again, I am as an engineer at Bloomberg, I know that Bloomberg is a leader in technology, but I would like to also see you as applying to the position that you think and you know that Bloomberg it would be a good employer for you in the future. Resources, I will not go over all of them. We mentioned a couple of them in few slides before. These are all the resources, and it will be more online as well. You don't have to use every single one of them. I would say each one has a different aspect or different formatting, but it's a good resource for you to keep track of what you want to learn. For example, if you want to really learn about maps or really learn about arrays, you could potentially use a lead code, daily coding problem, different pages or different resources to just learn about arrays. It will be only a list of resources for you to use. Yeah, we can go to the next one. So for this one, for the resources, I would say to keep one for reading most of the differences, link, map, set. But if you want to go deeper and that link doesn't have more exercises, you can use more of the other resources.
So Pooja asks, how do we highlight independent projects on LinkedIn? So we probably don't have time to go to everyone's LinkedIn. So it should be on the resume. Yeah, I typically don't. The resume is like the piece I look at for every candidate. So just the projects on the resumes with those really strong bullets that tell that story. What the problem was, action, insights, and the results. And if you can quantify those results as much as possible and loop in the technologies and platforms you used. Is it okay to put we plan taking the spring on the resume? Yes, but you should identify those, because if it's data structures and algorithms and you haven't taken it, then you're going to struggle with the interview. These are great questions, guys. Please keep them coming. Yes. No. So Ian Palencia asked, is there a difference? So everyone gets the same question. So even if you're self-taught, if you're a math major that went to a boot camp, the questions are pretty much the same. I mean, we're not going to ask a sophomore the same questions we would ask a PhD, but they're gauged a little bit. Great questions, guys. We hope this is helpful. Please let us know if there's anything else you guys have questions about. Ms. Bloomberg, yeah, everything is virtual. As you can see, we would love to be in Miami right now. I love going to Miami, but yeah, everything is virtual. This is my virtual office. Yeah, we would love to be in Miami right now. I can't speak for Jose or Cindy, but I would love to be right now. So yes, you can apply on the website, but Rafael, please I'm going to connect with folks. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and over the next few days, I'll be reaching out to people with the application link. But definitely I have you on my list. If you do apply on a link that you find on the website, please mention that you attended the ShellHacks conference. Okay. Any questions about the resources? Someone asked, what's an insightful question to ask engineers? So Cindy, Jose, do you guys want to, what's a good question you get during interviews?
I think questions that show interest about our work culture or how we work are really good. And those can range. Like, I personally like to ask, what's your craziest story? But that one's always fun. But yeah, like I hear, like, what's your typical day? What kind of, do you get ownership over your project, or how does your team operate? I think, yeah, maybe like, what's the most difficult problems you guys have? Things like that, I think, that show interest in the product are always really good.
Awesome.
For how we work.
Yes, our internships are open from freshman year to PhD. But data structures and algorithms is a prerequisite. Would financial experience help? I don't think it will hurt. If you have financial experience, it helps to have it. But if you don't have it, it's not going to hurt you not to have financial experience. Our industry is completely tied to the financial markets in the industry, but it doesn't hurt you if you don't have that.
Yeah. And to clarify that, we are a technology company that our main product is a tool for traders or for finance company, but we don't ask engineers to know finance before building. We are solving software problems, and it just happened to be a finance software.
Someone asked, does Bloomberg sponsor masters? What do you mean by sponsor? Well, yes, we have a $12,000 a year tuition reimbursement plan. So you'd probably just have to take a couple classes a semester for us to pay for the whole thing. But you could pay for it through the $12,000 a year. Does a Coursera, any course that could satisfy the data structure and the algorithms? Yes, for the program, because we do sponsor, because we do hire people who don't have a college degree. How are people? This is a great question. Then we'll move on because I want to get into the mock interview, and we have half an hour left. How do you guys test for culture fit? And I think this is a great question because this is super important. I've been in interviews where a candidate was a rock star coder, but could not discuss working in a team, didn't do any research on Bloomberg, answered his questions with like one-word answers. What do you guys, Jose, what do you look for in terms of a culture fit when you're interviewing?
So mostly we would like to see that you will work well in a team, that you are communicating, that if you are stuck, you will escalate that to your peer or to your managers. It's good to always have that kind of conversation, that kind of communication with your teammates, because we are trying to have projects that you won't be in a silo working on it the whole day. You will be communicating with your direct team or with other teams at Bloomberg. So one of the cultural fields that at least I always look for is how can I see you as a part of my team.
And something to add to that is we don't think about culture fit. We say culture add. So how would this person add to the culture? We don't expect people to be cookie cutter copies of each other, and we celebrate people's differences. So we think about culture add versus culture fit because we don't want to think about people as having to sort of fit within the confines of a box or certain traits. It's more of how they contribute to the culture at Bloomberg. Yes to LinkedIn Learning. I am a huge fan of LinkedIn Learning. I've taken a bunch of classes, and I think they're actually really good. Okay, why don't we move on because I want to get to the the interview questions. This is where it gets good. All right, so why don't we, Jose, you wrap it up with this before we move forward.
So this is so before the actual interview, before the day before, get some sleep early. Don't forget to eat in the morning. Most of the interviews are in the morning after 10 a.m., but it will be up to you and the recruiter to decide. Bring water, similar as Cindy drinking water now. Confidence will come with practice. As we mentioned about all the resources and talking with a friend, the more you practice, the more confident you will be. So the last advice is practice, practice, and practice.
Yeah, and I can't tell you enough. Like, and candidates have told me, you know what, at my interviews are in 2-3 weeks, and I just scheduled 2 hours a day where I knew every day I was going to be practicing for 2 hours a day, or I met with my friend twice a week and we practice with each other. I think practicing with someone else is actually really helpful because they can give you feedback on that communication style. All right, so we're going to go into the mock interview. In the first scenario, Jose, you'll be the candidate, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then Cindy, you'll be the interviewer. I really want people to sort of listen attentively and take note because we really we're trying to recreate what this would look like. And we would be using the HackerRank tool. And we're not going to pull that up now just for simplicity purposes, but imagine yourself using the HackerRank tool, and let's take it from here.
So, welcome to your first Bloomberg interview. For your first question, I would like you to write a function for me, and the input is 2 different strings. And I want the function to determine if one string is the permutation of the other. So your output should just be true if they're permutations and false if they're not.
Okay. So I will receive 2 strings. The function, it should only return true if it's a permutation. And to clarify, to confirm, permutation is when the 2 strings have the same amount of character and the same total for each character, right?
Yes.
So what I can consider, for example, if one string is shorter than the other, there is right away no permutation. I don't have to go deeper. Okay. What is the limit? Is there any limit on the input? How big or how large would be the strings?
Oh, the string could be, let's say at least 100 characters.
Okay.
Is the most that we expect it to be.
Do we have a set on the character? Would be letters, number, ASCII, or any other subset?
Yeah, it'll just be all lowercase A to Z character. So that's 20.
Okay. In terms of the input, should I expect an invalid input? For instance, null values, values that are not in the set that you just mentioned?
Yeah, you can expect null or empty strings.
Okay.
Or other, maybe an object.
So given to string, okay, code check. Okay, so what I'm thinking is to first create one function that it would be like is permutation, where I pass the 2 strings. First, I will check if the 2 strings have the same length. If it's not, I can return false right away, so I don't have to do extra checking. Hopefully, it will be helping performance as well. For the second one, because permutation means that both strings should have the same amount of characters. So I will try to use a map where I can put for each character how many totals or how many counts it has in the string. For example, in the CD input, I will have C1 and D1. So I will try to iterate over the first string creating the map. And I would say the second string, I can iterate and reducing the total. For example, if I have 3Ds and the second string have 4, I will be reducing one by one. And when I try to reduce one and there is no more in the map, I can say, okay, the second string has more Ds, so I can return false. So I think that the first loop will be to create the map and to increase the count. The second loop will be to using the second string to reduce the count. At the end, if the count is, if the map is still have something, I would say it's not a permutation. So I will expect at the end the map to be empty. Okay. I think. What do you think about that approach?
That sounds good. What would be your runtime and your memory complexity?
So it will depend. Can I use any API tool, for instance, sort right away from the API?
Yes.
Okay. If I can use sort, I would say it would be n log n, but it might be slower than the loop. If I use the approach that I discussed, it will be up to n, because I will be iterating up to the length of the string. And even though I'm iterating twice, it will be 2n, it will still be on. For the space complexity, I do need to have an extra map, and the map will be up to on, because I assume that the input is all different letters. I will need the one key for each character. I would say here we have two choices. We can avoid a space complexity and using the sort, because I won't need to create more structures, but it might affect performance. I would say in this case, I will go with the extra space in favor of performance.
Sounds good. Next slide.
Oh.
So if you noticed, oh, no. Yeah, if you noticed, Jose, he paused and he thought about the question, and he asked a bunch of really good questions, right, about inputs, everything. He restated the problem. He explained out loud his approach, and even maybe like some trade-offs to different things he would do. So this is an example of a great start to the problem.
Next slide. Yeah. So here, as I was discussing with Cindy, I first check the length of both strings, and if the length is on the same, I don't have to check more. I don't have to do more checks, so I can return false right away.
See, and explaining it just that way in an interview is perfect.
Next slide. So here is the second step that I mentioned to Cindy. With the first string, I can creating a map counter by char, where each char we have at the end of the loop, each char we have how many characters the same has in the string. For example, if I have AD, I will have a map with A1 and D1. And this will be allow me on the next slide to compare the second string with what I'm expecting to. So here, I'm looping through the second string, which is the B, and I'm checking, is this character on the counter by char? If it's not, that means that the second string has a character that was not on the first string, so it's not a permutation. So I can return false right away. This continuation is I get the count, and I check how many counters each character expecting. So it's only one, and I'm able to delete or reduce one. So I can remove the character from the map right away. If it has more than one, I can subtract counter -1. So at the sorry, can you go back one? So at the end, I'm expecting that I will be deleting when there is no more character to expect. So on the next iteration, it will go to the doesn't have this character on the map. So it will return false. On the next slide, at the end, I will expect the map to be 0 if it's a permutation, because I deleted all the character expected when iterating over the second array, over the second string. And that will be the solution we discussed.
And I think lastly, we might even say like, hey, let's go through some example. So I think the first example was like CD and DB, and like walk it through the code. I think that's also very important.
Another thing, as I mentioned about the bowstring using the sort, here Cindy could ask me, how can we improve this even further? And here we can have the conversation about using sort or not using sort, and why we having preference over performance best respect complexity.
Oh, Julio, I don't think we can.
I want to ask, is this similar to level of difficulty we expect in the interview?
I think they range depending. So we will try to challenge you a little bit, but not too much, just to see how deep your knowledge and your confidence goes. But even if you get what you think is a really easy question, communication is key. Don't just like breeze through it, right? This is I've seen this before in interviews, right? This question before, and Jose's answer was like is a top-notch answer, right? He went through the different use cases, he talked through it, he went over best yeah, I guess like the trade-offs between different solutions. So I think the trade-offs over different solutions like a little bit like next level. I'm like, wow, this person knows what they're talking about. So a really good thing to see.
Good job, Jose. All right, so we move on to the next question. All right, so Cindy, you'll be the candidate, and Jose, you will be the Bloomberg interviewer. And this is a two-part question.
Oh, sorry. How do you grade the finish? So we don't expect for you to finish. It's okay if you don't finish the exercise. What we are looking again is how do you think about the process? How do you interact with the recruiter or with the interviewer, and the design and the solution you provide. It's not. It's okay to not complete the exercise.
I think a good rule of thumb is like the first 5 to 10 minutes. Is like just questions and restating the problem and making sure that you know what's going on.
How much time do you usually have? You should give yourself like half an hour, right? If you're practicing at home.
Yes, and we could have two different. This next mock interview will have the second kind of a workflow. We could have either 2 questions or we could have one with follow-ups. So don't feel depending on the interviewer. It's okay if at the half of the interview we say, hey, let's stop here and start another different question. Maybe the interviewer want to analyze or to try different things. But it could also be one question, you solve it, and we can keep asking follow-ups on the same one, which is the one that I'm going to ask Cindy now. So Cindy, welcome to Bloomberg. This is given an array of unique positive integers and a target value. I want you to create some function that will print all the pairs whose sum is equal to the target. For example, if you receive the list 3, 10, 2, 6, 8, 5, and the target is 8, the solution should print 3, 5, and 2, 6 in pairs.
Okay, so my input is a bunch of numbers, right? An array of numbers. Um, and I want to see which ones come up to the number 8 in this example, right? So
Mhm.
my first thought is, 8 minus the first number, 8 minus 3, I know 5. So I just need to know that 5 is also in this array, right?
Correct.
If I look at number 10, this is bigger than 8, so I don't even need to check that one because I think they all have to be positive integers. And yeah, I guess my other thought is like, oh, what if there's, can you have duplicates in the array?
For this one, we will say that it's unique. We can say it will be unique positive integers.
Oh yeah, a unique positive integer. Okay, so when I print it out, do you need it printed like this or like
Uh,
line or does it matter too much?
this will be a sample. Doesn't matter the order. You could print 2, 6, and then 3, 5. As long as the all the pairs are prints.
Okay, and so I wouldn't print duplicate pairs, right? So if I now reach 5, I don't want to, I don't want to print 5, 3, right?
Oh, correct. Yes. You should only use the values once.
Okay. Okay. So my first thought is, I can make a set of the array, right? Because one, that'll just ensure that they're unique from the inputs, and then just go through and also accessing and checking that something is in a set is constant time, right?
Okay.
So my thought is I can check if I can go through all the numbers in the array, subtract them from 8, and check if they're if it's in the set and remove them as I go. So I make sure that I don't go I don't print the pairs twice.
Okay. So you are okay. So you are saying you will be using a set because of the constant time, which is correct, and you will be subtracting and verifying if the result is in the set. Okay.
Yeah.
How will be the space complexity?
So that would be O of n because I'd have to put all of the numbers of the array into a set.
Okay. And what about the time complexity?
Yeah, putting something into a set is O of n, and I think going through every character is O of n as well, and subtracting it from 8 is constant time, so total would be O of n.
Still on it. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Next slide. Yeah, we wanted to emphasize, as you see, Cindy took pause to read the exercise again. She asked clarification question. For example, she asked one question about using 3-5 and 5-3. It was not explicitly mentioned in the exercise, but it was ambiguous. It was good to clarify that with the interviewer before going to the implementation. And restate the problem, what she was thinking for the interviewer to say, yeah, it is what you are thinking. It's confirming that you are thinking the correct approach. And thinking out loud, I will be using set because it's constant type. Even though I have to copy into a set, it will be O1. The time complexity won't go further than O1. And at this time, we are ready to go to the implementation because it was that conversation with the interviewer.
Great. So let's take a look at, let's pretend here I'm writing some code, and I'm just going to walk through some examples for with my interviewer. So my function is named target. It gets passed in an array of numbers and a target value. I'm going to create an empty set of these numbers, and I'm just going to have an empty array for the answer that's going to be my output. So now I'm going to start going through every character in the array. So let's say our array has 4, 5, and 8, and my target is 8, right? So so for the first iteration, 8 minus 4 is going to be 4. And if 4 is in my number set, 4 is in my set, I'm going to print out, I'm going to append 4 and 4 to my answer, but my set has 4, 5, and 8. Right? Oh no, I have a bug.
How can you avoid this bug? The solution seems what you described, right?
Yeah.
Adding the set, but you just found a corner case.
Yeah.
How we can work around that?
Oh yeah. Well, we still need to remove it from the set. So I think the next lines are okay. I think the problem is that maybe I can remove it from the set before. If I remove it from the set before I check if it's in the set, I think that could solve it. Or I could also, I think they're all supposed to be unique. So instead of going through the array, I could go over all the items in the set.
Correct. Okay.
And I think
So
those would be the same runtime.
if you are going through all the number set, what would be the approach? For example, if you have the for I in numbers, new target would be 3, target minus 1. So you might find the same situation.
Yeah,
Do you need?
I still have to remove it before
Okay.
I check that it's in there. So
Okay.
Yeah, I would have to, and that makes sense, right? Because num set dot remove I, and then my new target is going to be now if I check if it's in the num set, it's not in there, so this won't actually print out.
Your senior are not showing on this screen, but Cindy is adding a remove right before the new target equals target minus I.
Oh yeah, I was sitting in another screen. Sorry.
But in this one, we found it's okay to find kind of bugs or corner cases with your interviewer, and you will have this discussion with the interviewer on how to cover that corner case. Okay, so after adding this remove, everything else will be intact, and I think you will be covering the corner case that you found.
Yep.
Next slide. Okay.
Oh, that was the end of that.
So now you found the corner case. You use the set because it were unique characters. So given I would like to have a follow-up. So let's tweak this a bit. Now you are receiving the same array and same target, but now the array could include duplicates. It will still be positive integers, but you could have duplicate values. What would you change to make this work?
Okay, so knowing that there can be duplicate values, right? Putting it in a set won't work because it won't tell me that there's more than one. I could put it into an object where I keep count of how many of each character there are, so I can know how many pairs, right? So if there's 2 5s and 2 3s, I know I can print that out twice. Does order still matter when I'm printing it out? So does it have to be if for in this example one, if it's 3, 5, and then another, if the next one was 5, 3, is it okay to print out 3, 5, and 5, 3, or does that
So
even matter?
this one, it should not matter. It won't matter. You can put 2, 6 and 3, 5 and 3, 5, or 5, 3 and 5, 3. I would say the only requirement will be that you can use only once the information from the array. So as you can see in the sample one, you have 2 3s and 2 5. So that's why is you have 2 3 5 on the solution. There is no requirement on which pair will be first.
Because my thought is, I could sort this, and then, but that's n log n, and then I'd have to go through the duplicates as well as I'm iterating through the string to get to the value that I want. So that's not very performant. So I do like the idea of putting it into an object with the number value and the count. That way it's a lot easier to see what is there. Yeah, I'd have to, I guess, so every time I create a pair, I'd have to decrease, I'd have to remove it from the object. So
what do you have to remove from the object?
The value. So if I say,
Okay.
yeah, if I put a 3, 2, I guess in this example, 3 3s, and so it would, yeah, my object would say 3 3, and then 5 2, because there's 2. I'd have to remove the. I know that 3 and 5 are the only ones that add up to target 8, and I'd have to remove. I'd have to see if there's pairs. There's also the question of you need two 4s. So like, what if there was 4 4, right? That one I'd be checking against itself. So that's an edge case I'd want to check for. And let me check about example 2 is this is the same example. Yep.
But note that here in the second one you have 3 2s. So even though you can potentially use the one with multiple 2s, we can only have 2 solutions because it will be 2 pairs.
Yeah, so I'd have to only print out the same number of matches, right? So yeah, I guess it would also have to be an even number. All right, so I guess what I could do is when I'm going through the object, I could also check if it's divisible by 2, and then that would tell me how many pairs I could possibly make, and I'd have to take the lower number.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is the case if they're different. If they're the same, I'd have to just say that. Yeah, I'd have to just, I guess, take the divided by 2 and take the mod. So
so what do you oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I guess round it, right? We don't want like if we divide by 2, in this case it's like 2.5 or something. You'd want to round down. My thought, I also have another edge case. What if there's a 0? So does like 8 minus 0 also count as a pair?
So let's assume that in this list, you will have values 1 or more. 0 won't be part of a valid value.
Okay, so I also only have to go up to the target value, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that's also, that would be good to know, because I could just ignore anything that's greater than 8 in the oh, that might be able to make it faster too. I could take a first pass to filter out anything greater than 8 or less than 8, and then just to clean our data, and then go through and find the pairs.
How will you say what will be the time complexity on doing this filtering?
So it would be O of n because I'd go through everything and check if it's greater than 8 or less than 1.
Okay.
So it wouldn't really add to the time complexity since it's a separate.
Okay. So you are saying that you will be filtering out the list to only use the possible values that really matters.
Yes.
Because if you have 10, 20, 30, it won't be adding to the target by themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. I think I'm ready to code. All right. So for this first example, I'm getting the array of numbers and a target, and I have a number set. So for I'm going to go through every item in the array of numbers, and if it's not in the set, I'm going to if I is a number set, I'm going to increase the number there. So I'm making that map that I talked about, or else I'm going to instantiate it if it's not in the number set already.
Okay.
And I'm just creating an empty array for my answer to be populated later.
Okay. Clear answer. Okay.
Next slide. All right. So for now, I'm going through the array again, and I'm going to find that new target that we talked about. So for example, it might be like 8 minus 3, and my new target is 5. So I'm going to check if 5 is in my number set, and if 5 is equal to 3, so this is that check if they're the same number, and they're not, so we go to the else statement. So if number set, hard to do this without writing, if 5 is greater than or equal to 1, and the value in the number set is greater than or equal to 1, I'm going to append it to my answer, the 3 and the 5, and then I'm going to decrease the count in the object, right? And then, yep, and then I'm going to number set new target, and as well as the character that we just checked. So I'm removing the 3 and the 5, or bringing down the count of 3 and 5 inside of the object, and so forth. And like, let's go through the example of 4 in this case as well. So if target 8 minus 4, and my new target is 4, and if 4 equals 4, so we hit this first if statement, and the number set for 4 is greater than or equal to 2, I'm going to append it to my answer set, and I'm going to decrease the count by 2 as we're taking 2 items.
Okay. Number set, number 1. Okay. Yeah, sounds about right.
Next slide.
Yeah, and then
Voila.
so this one, can you go back to the previous one slide? So in this problem, in this mock, we wanted to show one case that it could happen, where we ask one question with that has some limitations, and then the follow-up we have, let's tweak this a bit. And now in the first one you have unique values, and in the second one you have duplicates. And as Cindy was answering, the first one using set was good because it was unique values. That for the second one, she needed to think what other data structure could be used.
Yeah, and we still went over the trade-offs of like, no, does sorting make sense now? And it's like, well, we could still use an object, and that's still going to give us constant time there. So I guess worst case is just O of N of going through everything in the array.
And Alejandro Martinez also asked if you could sort. Yes, the question that we ask, we don't expect a specific answer, a specific solution. You could solve the problem whatever you feel more is the proper way. Just have this conversation with the interviewer before jumping to the implementation.
Yeah, because as a follow-up, they might ask, okay, let's say you're working in mobile and you need to reduce your memory, right? How do we do this?
Okay. Yeah, if we can go to the next one. If there are any question about the two mocks problem that we discussed, feel free to ask something on the chat.
Julio, we can't hear you. Yeah. This is called the demo effect, everyone. No, I think you're still muted. Where can you see the questions again? Oh, so we put up a link, which I think is a great link. Maybe we can go back to it, of coding resources. And we just suggested that you go through like 2 or 3, maybe pick your favorite. And it's not important. It doesn't really matter what you use to practice. It matters what you practice, right? So like make sure you do strings, make sure you do questions with arrays, linked lists, trees, graphs, right? Heaps, right? And do some sorting one just for fun. Yeah, just make sure you cover all the basics. I think cracking the coding interview was one. Maybe another one was HackerRank.
Julio, maybe you can call me and I can put the speaker if you need to. Hello?
So just wanted to thank everyone.
I muted myself. I think maybe that was the issue. I think you should try it.
Thank everyone. Challenge next at 1:30. Thank you for that.
Puzzle challenge. Bye, everyone.